So, a lot of people struggle with overeating for various reasons, but I'm going to address the reason that a lot of athletes, let's say, I think, struggle with overeating. Um, and I actually want to use one person as an example. Paddy Pimblett, I think his name is, MMA guy. I recently watched a video of him and Jocko Willink. And first, I gotta say, for all I know, this is actually not the case for him. Maybe he just really actually loves food. However, a lot of people, in fact, probably most people, if you are routinely crash dieting for competitions of some sort, your body goes into like a starvation mode, and it's going to tell you to just eat like crazy. And food is going to taste really good, and you're really going to like it. You will you do like you love food. If you go into starvation mode, you love food. You cannot really distinguish that from a true love of food. The question is whether that truly exists or whether that's a disorder, either like a genetic disorder that your body thinks it's always starving, or an induced disorder like from the competitions. But let's say some people can truly just love food. I mean, I think we all, yeah, some people are going to analyze it more and be more into it. But like I was listening to that Paddy Pimblett talk about how much he's eating, and I could relate to it a lot because for a lot of my life I was like that too, where I could just eat a lot, and at times I didn't really care about eating, but then at other times, like, I loved food, I wanted to eat a lot, and I can just eat without end. And people didn't think I could eat so much. Even when I'm just in my normal state, working out a lot, I eat as much as a three-person family. I know that because I eat as much as my wife. Well, I'm sorry, a four-person family, but the fourth person is kind of small, my wife's sister, so yeah, I eat the same amount of food as my wife, plus her sister, plus her father, plus her mother. And that's my normal amount. Now, if I start dieting down and stuff and get my body back into that starvation mode, I could eat way more. And I was listening to Patty talk, and he's saying, yeah, I just love food. And it made me think, perhaps it's not that he truly loves food, but that he's pushed his body to stay in this starvation mode all the time. I don't mean that he's starving all the time. I mean that the body is tricked and telling him to eat all the time because he routinely keeps crash dieting down. And it can take longer than you would expect for that starvation mode to turn off. It's not like you just eat, you get to 10% body fat, 15% body fat, and your body goes, everything's good, don't worry, don't eat anymore. No, it keeps on going. Your body wants to really eat a lot of food, gain a good amount of fat. It's kind of like going into hibernation mode. And perhaps we do have those genes in us to do a sort of hibernation, although current humans do not hibernate. Nevertheless, I've experienced it with myself, I've seen it with my wife, I've seen it with other people. It's like when you try to crash diet, you are most likely going to put your body into starvation mode and it's going to want to just eat like crazy. You can just eat without end when you get into starvation mode. And it doesn't stop just because you get to your normal body fat that you were before you started dieting. So I think there's a very high probability that Paddy Pimblett is like this, but who knows, maybe it doesn't apply to him, but maybe it applies to you. And what's cool for me is I noticed that I've kind of, I crash dieted for my competition last year, but then afterwards, I gained a little bit of weight back, and then I stayed pretty low after the competition. I gained some weight back, but then I pretty quickly went back down, and I just kind of maintained. And I got to a stable point where my body is not in that starvation mode. And it's been a long time since I haven't been in that mode because I was typically dieting down, then gaining weight and staying in starvation mode, and then I would diet down. And even though I was only dieting down for like, let's say from this side of the screen to this side of the screen, it's the timeline, I'd only diet down from like this little part, and this little part. But that was enough to keep me in starvation mode for the whole thing. Um, so yeah, be very careful about crash dieting. It's a much better idea to do it gradual if you're trying to maintain it for the long run. Um, yeah, just something good to know. Like really, if I'm not very fat right now. I'm not my leanest. My legs are a lot leaner than my upper body. But if I were to crash diet right now, chances are I would end up gaining back and becoming more weight and becoming fatter than I am right now afterwards. And it might maintain for a while. What's funny is even right now I consider myself a bit fat. And I'm not actually fat, but I've got a little bit of fat. Even if I relax, you can still see some abs. So I'm not my leanest, but I'm pretty lean. And I think that's another thing is that when you're a bodybuilder, you get some body dysmorphia, and it's true, like having a stomach out to like here, that is fat. But, it's not like you're. So just keep all this stuff in mind. Crash dieting is most likely going to send you into starvation mode, and that's going to last a lot longer than you crash dieted for.